Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Richard Wong, and I'll be hosting our webinar today on harnessing the power of the cloud with Soluno. It's fantastic to meet everyone here. Before we get going, I want to go over some housekeeping items. Everyone will be on mute throughout the presentation, but please post your questions in chat, and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. On today's agenda, we'll be going through a comparison of some of the key differences between on-premise and cloud-based software. Topics will include the difference in computing and access, security and protection, how the software is distributed, and the total cost of ownership between the two. We'll then jump into Soluno for a quick demonstration on how easy it is to set up a file, record some time, and generate a bill. And then we'll finish off with some live Q&A. If everyone is ready, let's get started. So just a little bit about Soluno. We are a cloud-based legal billing and accounting solution for law firms who want to confidently run their practice as a business. But we're a little bit different than some of our competitors who try to be a jack of all trades. That's not what Soluno is all about. We are focused on providing the best legal billing and accounting software with the best support experience as possible. And a little bit about me. I've been in the legal software industry for the last 15 years, helping law firms buy both on-premise and cloud-based programs. And what I've learned in the last 15 years about the main difference between the two is that at the end of the day, cloud software is less complicated. Less complicated means either money saved or money earned for a law firm. With that in mind, let's dive into some of the main differences between on-premise and cloud-based software. So with on-premise software, because you need to set it up locally, it requires you to have a server and workstations connected through a network, all of which carry upfront fees and ongoing maintenance costs. Accessing your data remotely is generally not included and can be complicated to set up. Whether it scales as your firm grows is really dependent on the hardware and software you originally purchased, which becomes outdated quickly. Think of how fast cell phones are introduced these days and how fast a new one is released with more features. Software is very similar. With cloud software, the cost of the infrastructure is shared among hundreds of thousands of users and companies. Because it only requires a browser and internet, it means you can be 100% mobile without having to worry about the type of device you use or what needs to be set up prior to working away from your main office. Cloud hosting providers from Microsoft or Amazon are highly scalable and managed by the provider. You never have to worry about the technical part of scaling because they do all the work, and you never have to worry about whether Soluno can grow with your firm because we do all of that work. Soluno has shown to be incredibly scalable as we have clients upward of 100 users currently. In terms of security and protection, for on-premise solutions, data integrity and physical security require constant monitoring, whether it's a guard or security company watching over your office, or an IT technician monitoring your server, running checks, or preventing unauthorized access, they all carry upfront and ongoing fees. The unfortunate reality is that if you neglect to monitor your data on your office server, corruption is likely, and if you fail to secure that server, ransomware is a real threat. Just last week, Humber River Hospital in Toronto was struck with a ransomware attack, which required the hospital to completely shut down all 5,000 local computers. Although the shutdown happened quickly and prevented most of the data from being encrypted by the hacker, some computers were still corrupted. With cloud software, your data is secured by the hosting company. In the case of Soluno, by Microsoft, and they've made substantial investments on the physical security of their data centers, have round-the-clock monitoring and bank-grade level encryption to prevent unauthorized access. Service level agreements result in uptime in the 99% plus range, so you can depend on Soluno to be available and be assured that your data is secured. The best part is that our monthly fee covers it all, so you don't have to worry about all the extras when you save your data locally. Remember the days when you had to go to Best Buy to pick up your physical disk to install your programs? Thankfully, most on-premise software companies have moved to an online download model, ironically leveraging one of the benefits of cloud access. But you're still responsible for installing, updating, and testing any upgrade or new feature with on-premise software. This means hiring a professional, which, of course, carry costs, or attempting to do it yourself, which at best takes away from the time you otherwise could be spent practicing law. Not the case with cloud programs. New features and upgrades are deployed by us, so no additional installation or setup is required from your end, and you'll have access immediately to the next time you log into Soluno. And lastly, as we covered earlier with some of the differences between on-premise and cloud software, one of the biggest considerations is the total cost of ownership, because there are many extra fees with setting up a program on your server that aren't included with your initial software purchase. Most firms will budget for the original software license, but not for ongoing technical support after the first year. The hardware or other software necessary to meet system requirements, a robust network for users to connect through, especially if there's multiple staff, backups for disaster recovery, and physical security for your equipment. With cloud services like Soluno, you pay a single monthly subscription fee, which includes everything. It's that simple. So let's jump into Soluno. Now I'll show you how easy it is to set up a file, enter a time entry, and expense entry, and generate a bill. So this is the login screen for Soluno, and as you can see, our software only requires a browser and internet. And after you log in, Soluno is organized in a very intuitive menu structure on the top with the notifications and documents, dashboards, contact and files, main entries, bank administration, billing, views and reports, financials, quick entry, and a timer. So for today's demonstration, we'll be exploring contacts and files, quick entry, and billing. But our sales team would be happy to schedule a deeper dive if you'd like to explore other Soluno menus further. Let's set up a file by going to the contacts and files section. In this section, we have different tabs that represent the different parts of this section. We have the File Manager tab, the Contact Manager tab, Conflict Search, New File, and New Contact. For many firms, prior to setting up a file, a conflict search is completed. So, for example, let's just say that I had a prospective client, Mr. John Smith, who is about to retain my services, and I want to run a conflict search prior to setting up the file. I can click on the conflict search tab, and you'll see that a prior search pulls up initially. If I click on this downward arrow, this allows me to select the type of terms for that search. It also allows me to include contacts and files, also entries in the system as well. So actually, let's use a different example. Let's say I wanted to look for my last name, Wong. I type in Wong as the search parameters. I can hit this play button, and the system will then search through the system to look for any terms related to my parameters. What you'll also notice is that for some firms who like to save the search results and attach it to the file, Soluno allows you to save it as a PDF so that you always have a record of that search that you did previously. So if I click on this PDF icon, this will then allow Soluno to generate a PDF report, which I can save onto the file afterwards. Once I've completed the conflict search, I am now ready to confidently enter a file in the system. I do this by clicking on the New File tab. And if it was an existing client, for example, I can search my list of existing clients, and then choose them from the list. And what you'll notice is that Soluno has an automatic matter numbering convention based on that client number. In this case, if it was another matter for John Bartlett, the system automatically creates a file number based on previous matters that he had in the system. So this is his 5th matter that he's retained our services for. If this was for a brand new client, I can click on the Contacts button, fill in the details, put in their address, and then hit Save. And then what you'll notice is that this client, Mr. Wong, with client number 45 and the first matter number for 45 can be then created in the system. I'll then assign an area of practice. So perhaps this is a real estate matter. And then I'll assign a responsible lawyer. Once I hit save, now that's all that's required to save and set up that file in Soluno. Now that we've set up a file, let's record some time and expenses on that new file for Mr. Wong. I can do so in the main entries button section, or we also have a quick entry menu that allows you to enter your time, fees, and expenses in one section. So if, for example, I wanted to enter a time entry for Mr. Wong, I can put in an explanation for it. I can put in an amount of billable work. And you notice that the default rates based on what I set when I first set up the file appears automatically. So it saves you time when you're doing this data entry window for all of your staff as well as your lawyers and attorneys. I can hit save, and that's all that's required to enter a time entry in Soluno. To enter an expense entry, so perhaps you have some soft costs such as photocopy or courier charges, I can go back into the quick entry section and click on expense, choose the file for Mr. Wong again, put an explanation code to this, so perhaps it's photocopy charges, and put an amount for it. We also have a quantity and rate calculator that makes it easy for you to calculate the total amount as well. Once I hit save, then that disbursement is saved onto the Wong file afterwards. Now that we've entered some time, created some expenses, now let's generate an invoice. In the billing and invoicing section, we actually have different stages that allows you to request, review, and release an invoice. We also have a stage that allows you to adjust an invoice. So if you've already created one and you need to make an adjustment to it, we have a section that allows you to do that. And we also have the ability to create statements afterwards. Completely optional to go through each of these stages, but it's a really great review process that allows you, your staff, and any decision maker to be able to review any charges prior to finalizing a bill. So if, for example, you want to start the invoicing process, you'll generally start off in the Request Invoice tab. And in this section, it allows you to be able to define the scope of your bill run. So you can change dates, you can choose specific files, specific client contacts, different departments, different areas of practice. If you leave everything blank, it will search through the system and find any work in progress and any files that can be billed and create invoices for you to review afterwards. In my case, I'm going to just create a bill for that Wong matter that I just created. I can hit process, and then that sends the bill for review. So here's an example here, right here, of that bill that we just created. So if everything was okay with that bill, so here is the 2 hours of charges, including the photocopy charge that we just created. I can click and select that invoice and send for release. So this is a really great way for you to review the charges on the invoice itself. If everything is okay with that invoice, I can process it and send it to final release. And then at this stage, if everything is good with this invoice, I can then finalize it afterwards. Again, just keep in mind that it's not necessary to go through this entire process. back in the request invoice section, I did also have the option of sending it to release right at time of request. But when I'm in the release invoice section, if everything was okay with this invoice, I can select it and finalize it. So just a really quick way of showing you how to set up files, record some time and expenses, generate an invoice. So that concludes the quick demonstration portion of our demo for today. We will open up for questions if anyone wants to have any questions. We also have my colleague Diane on the call, who will also be assisting with fielding those questions.
All right, hi, Richard. We do have one question, and it says, does Soluno do trust accounting?
Yes, most definitely. Soluno does do trust accounting. It is a full billing and accounting system geared towards law firms. So it will do client ledger, trust ledger, and general ledger accounting.
All right, another one has come in saying, have you had any firms that have had to go through an audit?
Maybe Diane, can you chime in since you have been working with firms that implemented our solution and with the audit trail?
Yes, we have had at least 5 that I know of, and they've all passed with flying colors. No issues whatsoever. We had all the reports that are required.
Okay, and then one more, it's a little bit more broad. It says, in your opinion, are there any areas that on-premise software is better than cloud-based software?
Not in my personal experience. The reason why I say that is because I started off with on-premise. So I had I worked with many companies that were on-premise based. And like I said, what I found was when I made the transition to the cloud personally, for both my professional life and for my personal life, I kind of found that cloud just provided the best solution in terms of flexibility, less complications. I can't think of any specific instance where an on-premise would be better suited, at least from my experience and from the experience of many firms I've worked with.
Okay, I have another one here about how long a conversion takes.
Diane, can you go through our conversion process quickly?
Okay. Part of it depends on what software you're currently using and coming from. Typically, our final conversions are done in a 2 to 3 business day window. Now, depending on what software you're coming from, we don't necessarily do a trial conversion. For example, for PC Law, we've currently done over 140 conversions from PC Law. So they're confident with them. However, if you've had any data corruption issues, or if it's a larger firm and they really want to do it ahead of time, we will do trial conversions for them as well. But all of our final conversions are done in a 2 to 3 day window.
Okay, great. And looks like this is the last one. If there are any other questions, make sure that you can submit them into the little question box. I believe it's at the top of the screen. This last one says, if I have a credit card, how do I record my expenses?
Diane, I believe that is set up through a bank account in the system, but can you confirm?
Correct. So we treat credit cards like a bank account that way. And when you're doing your data entry, so when you go to your operating out, you would just select your credit card. And then the great part about it is we reconcile it like a bank account. So you can ensure that all the expenses on the firm credit card have been entered, and it just sits in a contra asset position on your general ledger. And then you can easily use your transfer screen to pay that credit card, which is ultimately what you're doing at the bank. So it's very simple, and it's a full record of all your credit card expenses for the firm.
All right, it looks like those are all the questions there, Richard.
All right, perfect. So thank you everyone for attending our quick demonstration and webinar today. If you're interested in learning more, or if you'd like to schedule an additional demonstration with our sales team, feel free to go onto our website at soluno.legal. Thanks everyone for attending and have a terrific rest of the day.